What do we got?
So, watching spring practice, quarterbacks have looked good. Is it fair to say that you're as well stocked at quarterback as you've been since you've been here?
That's fair.
Okay, good.
The kid Dorian's back for year 5, so then we've got a bunch of young kids. I think Justin, Garbers, Chase, all those guys are really working hard on it. So, today we feel good. Now, I've been in this before, and 2 guys get injured, and then all of a sudden you're scrambling. But those guys have worked really, really hard. And with the addition of Justin, all those other guys have been there for a couple of years also. So I think the familiarity with what we're doing, the ability to communicate and talk, about what they saw and why they saw it. They're not just trying to remember, hey, that's play is in the ball snap. They're going through other reads and doing a really good job. So we do feel confident we can have that.
Is there a next step for Dorian, or is it just consistency throughout the season?
I think it's both. I think the number one thing in that position is you have to be consistent. And can you go out every day and continue to get a little bit better? And he has done that through the course of this spring. You've seen him improve from practice 1 to practice 14. So it's the subtle things. Maybe it's how he uses his cadence as a weapon. Some other little integral things. For him, basically, just like in school, he's not an undergrad anymore. He's in grad school. He's going to be here for year 5. So, but the cool part about him is you can see him getting better and better. He's gotten better in practice 14 than he was in practice 1.
How do you feel about the running backs behind Zach Charbonnet filling in for those carries that Britton Brown got?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Keegan's played a ton of football, and feel really confident in Keegan. Deshaun has not been in a game yet, but I think he's really coming along. And then we have Kaz there also, who's done a really nice job for us. And then you're just there isn't the Britton Brown, but you could just say, hey, we got Britton. And when Britton had an opportunity to go, he was a great weapon for us. So, I think those guys are still continuing to develop at that group. But I think he got confidence in both Kaz and Keegan because they played and carried the ball in games. So we feel good about that. And then we'll see where, Deshaun has gotten better since last fall. He's had a really good spring for us, but he hasn't been in the game yet. So we got to get him in the game and kind of see what he can do for us.
At tight end, maybe not a lot of big names, but a lot of guys that have really good size and pass catching and good depth, it seems like.
We do. We feel as good about our tight end position as we do our quarterback position. I think from an overall depth standpoint, with Mike Creedy and Mike Martinez, Mike Ezekiel, Hudson Havram, the 4 of those guys, and then adding Carson. Carson came in early in January and got some really, really good things for us. So we feel like we got some really good depth there. And it's not if one guy's down, we got to drastically change it. I think we've really bolstered that position. It's probably our deepest position throughout the entire team. But that group of guys, man, I think we've got 4 or 5 people.
I've only seen a handful of practices, but it seems like Devin Kirkwood is ready to kind of emerge as a star on this defense. Is that
yeah, I'm not going to throw star out there, but I think Devin has really gotten a lot better. Played a lot of football for us last fall. He's a real student of the game. He's arguably one of our hardest workers, but I think his development at corner, along with John Humphrey, I think John Humphrey's had a great spring for us on the other side. I think has been really beneficial. I think we finally have 2 tall, long corners where we've been looking to get. Both those guys physically, I think, can match up with anybody. And they're really just, the one thing you love about both of them is they're so dialed into what their technique is and how do they get better and what their work ethic is that you can see them getting better. So it's good that other people are recognizing the work that Devin's put in.
You got Greg and Sean doing the NFL draft last night. What are your thoughts then going to the Broncos and Packers?
It was awesome. I was happy for both those guys. I talked to Russell Wilson last night. He reached out after they took Greg, and I gave him Greg's number so they could hook up. I think it's a great spot for Greg being there, with Nathaniel Hackett, new staff, and Russell Wilson as your quarterback. It's got to be kind of a dream come true for him. And then really happy for Sean. Obviously Chris Barnes went there a couple years ago. I know their personnel group really well. Matt Malaspina, as the director of college recruiting, was really high on Sean. And then Ramsey Golpassion, who was a GA for us and an analyst for us in the last 4 or 5 years, is now a quality control coach for the Packers. So Sean will have a familiar face in there to be able to help him when he gets here and gets settled. And Green Bay's an unbelievable organization, so I was happy for both those guys. And hopefully we hear a couple more names today, rounds 4 through 7, and I'm sure there'll be a few more Bruins taken today. So that's credit to those guys for the work they put in when they were here. And we're excited to see what the next step is for those guys.
I know you're like 4 months from the season opener, but how would you kind of assess your ability to get a pass rush with the new guys you brought in, the new coaches that have brought in new ideas, and how you're kind of thinking about it all coming together?
I think it's still a work in progress because it is 4 months, but we feel like we've got some individual guys. At times when you do rush, guys got to win in one-on-ones, and I think we have a couple guys right now that demonstrated through the course of the spring that they can win in some of those one-on-one matchups. So, that makes us feel a little bit more comfortable in it. So you don't have to always all-out blitz just to get people home. When you do rush 4 and sometimes 3, you can still generate a pass rush. That allows us to put more people in coverage. So we obviously have to show up our pass defense. And pass defense is a combination of both the rush and the coverage. But if we can get home with not having to blitz every down, that makes any defensive coordinator happy and any head coach happy. So, but I think we've got some guys right now that have demonstrated their ability to get to the quarterback beating one-on-ones. So we feel good about it. We'll continue to work on it, but we do feel better about it.
Who are some of those guys?
The Murphys have done a really, really nice job on the edge. I think both Calvert and both Paul Jones have gotten a lot better on the edge. You've seen those guys kind of grow into their roles out there, and they're doing a really, really good job there. And then inside, Mark Henderson's really helped us a lot. Jay's getting a great push towards the quarterback, and kind of making the quarterback uncomfortable to be able to step up. If you have 2 really good edge rushers that can make the quarterback step up in the pocket, but then you have some push on the inside and you get the pocket to kind of collapse on it. So those are a couple off the top of my head that I think are doing a really good job.
We've seen the Murphys sometimes play inside. Is that just to test them out at that position, be a little more dynamic? Or
No, I think Billy, sometimes on 3rd down, you're trying to get your best guys on the field. So, can you play a package with the Murphys and Paul and Bo and whomever, maybe move one of the linebackers to there. So just some of the versatility and some of the things that Billy and Ken have brought from the NFL, I think. I think those guys can play in multiple positions, and we're just trying to experiment with what's the best combination of those guys when we get to it. So haven't dialed in on anybody in particular, but the more reps they can get at different spots, I think it's going to benefit them in the long run.
The transfer portal is still fluid, obviously, but when you're kind of looking at guys lost versus gained, do you feel like it's been a net positive for UCLA football?
I don't think you can gauge that to take games. So, you'll figure that part out. But we're really excited about the guys we've brought in. We have a plan and a method in terms of how we do things. I think the kids we have brought in have made an impact so far. They've made an impact in the classroom. We just got our grades back from the fall. Jake Bobo got an A and 2 A pluses. They've made an impact in the locker room. I think with their work ethic and their mindset, for all those guys have done that. So we feel really good about the guys that we brought in so far. So we'll continue to look and they have, but it's got to be the right guy.
Is there a position or two that you are targeting in particular where you?
No, I don't think you can target because it just doesn't work that way. It's just when somebody becomes available and you enter the portal, then is that a good fit? Does it, from all the things that we look at? Because you could say, hey, I want this, but they may not be that. So it doesn't. I think it's more of when someone enters, do they fit for what